Hi, Jordan. My question is, what is the antidote towards toxic masculinity?
Well, the antidote is responsible masculinity. And what does responsible mean? It means, well, if you're responsible, then you're trying to do what's honest first.
Yep.
So you're careful with your speech and your actions. You're careful with your speech in that you don't say things that you know to be false, and you're careful in your actions so that you don't have to lie about what you do. That's a good start. And then the next thing would be that you're capable of taking responsibility for yourself at least, so that once you're an adult, no one else has to bend over backwards to ensure that you don't unduly suffer in the world. And so that's responsibility for yourself. And then if you get halfway good at that, well then, you might think about taking on the responsibility of a family and contributing to your community and doing all those things in a harmonious manner. And that's obviously the antidote to toxic masculinity, which is not a phrase I would generally use. I just think about it as, what would you call it? I think sinful behavior is a much more accurate representation personally, but it's honesty and responsibility. And I do think about it as a function of harmony. I got that a lot from reading Jean Piaget, whose work was a psychological extension of Kant's categorical imperative, because Kant believed that you should act in a manner such that if the way you acted became a universal, that would be beneficial. But Piaget formalized that very nicely, showing that one of the bases for the emergence of a system of genuine ethics was an iterable form of reciprocity. So that, so for example, I can give you a quick example of that. My granddaughter, who's now 15 months old, has discovered a new game, and it's a Piagetian game, a developmental game, and she discovered this by watching, but also on her own, and partly because it's a very deep part of human nature. So she has this little wooden spoon, and her game is you sit with her at the table, and her game is she gives you the spoon, and then you take it, and then you give it back, and then she's all happy about that, and then she gives the spoon to the person who's sitting beside her, and then they give it back to her, and she's very happy about that. And so it's an amazing game because she's learned to give up something, to let go of something that she wants, and to trust someone else to return it to her, and that's what she's playing with. And then you can play with that game. It's quite fun. So, and you have to pay careful attention to her and watch how she's manifesting her emotions. And so maybe what you do is you take the spoon and you hide it under your hand. That sort of disconcerts her a bit. Then you show it to her and pick it up and give it to her, and she's happy about that because what she sees is that the principle of reciprocity can maintain itself across a set of transformations, and that's really exciting to her. Or you can give her the spoon, and she can give it back to you, and then she can reach for it, and you can pull it away 1/4 inch, and that sort of disconcerts her, and then she'll...
Can't really hear her.
You want to repeat that?
I'm sorry. I said that didn't cover really a toxic masculinity, right? Because
yes, it's dealing with the principle of reciprocity.
You just said that you have to be honest and responsible as a man, right?
Well, put it this way. When I'm giving the spoon back to my granddaughter, I'm not engaging in toxic masculinity. And that was the point that I was trying to make, is that, and this deep reciprocity and trust is part of the social contract. And it is precisely the antidote to what precisely, since we're going to pursue this, what precisely is toxic masculinity, as opposed to, say, toxic femininity or toxic humanity? What exactly are you asking me about?
Well, I really want to know what you like, how you would describe toxic masculinity. Because
no, I want you to define what toxic masculinity constitutes. Since we're going to define things so carefully, let's do it.
Okay, guys, sorry, but we really have to move on. So there will be more questions later on. There will be a lot of opportunities. No, but
maybe questions. If you. Okay, so let's define it shortly.
All right, shortly.
We're gonna let them go and do it.
Okay, I think that the moment when you kind of, I have a hard time to kind of describe it in English. Let's say, that you kind of go over a boundary that kind of neglects the freedom of the opposite, well, gender or whatsoever. So that's toxic masculinity, and that you kind of have.
But
this
that would also be toxic femininity.
Well, may I like finish my sentence,
Sure.
please? Thank you. And then also,
Bro.
I lost my sentence now. But no, I will be back. I'm back.
Bro. Look, see, this is the thing right here. This is the thing. You asking this man like what it is. He was giving you an analogy of what it is, and then he like, okay, if you saying that what I'm telling you now is not what it is, then you define it for me. You tell me what it is. She can't even tell him what it is. She's what? Oh, I lost my point. I lost my spot. Like he was giving her an analogy about, you know, like with the baby and the spoon and stuff like that, China. But you know, I would have did the same thing like Jordan did. Like, okay, I'm giving you an analogy. You telling me that you telling me basically like that ain't what it is. So I'm gonna be just like him. You tell me what it is. I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna just sit back and listen to you. You tell me what it is, and then I give you an answer. But she can't even get the question out because she don't. It sounds like to me. Now I'm not like bashing on her or nothing like that. But if you're gonna ask a question, don't ask a question if you don't even know what it means. But you asking him, but you don't even know what it means. You can't even get the question out. It's crazy. But let's see how it goes.
Yeah, can someone help me here in the audience?
She asked for some
Okay,
help.
so before.
But more in the sense that,
She,
can someone help me here in the audience?
Okay, so before we move on, let me point something out. You know that I was willing to undertake this line of discussion, allowing for the possibility that the category of toxic masculinity had some content, right? But if we're going to pursue that line of reasoning and quibble about the answer, then we're certainly going to quibble about the definition that's embedded in the question.
Yeah.
And so part of what's happened in our discourse is that we're required ethically to assume a priori, merely out of politeness, that the utterance toxic masculinity actually constitutes a meaningful phrase. And if you push it, you find very rapidly that it doesn't, because it's very, very, very difficult to define, and definitions actually matter. And so if it's a matter of transgressing against the boundaries of gender-appropriate behavior, well, first of all, that indicates that there's something universal and normative about gender-appropriate behavior, which is something that people who push the idea of toxic masculinity generally tend not to presume. And second, it's just as likely to happen among women as among men, in which case it's not toxic masculinity. So maybe on to the next question.
Okay.
there you go. JP had to drink some water after that one. He had to drink some water, bro. But like I said before, I wasn't bashing on her a number like that. But man, it, like you get in them little spots for where you asking a question about something, and then I guess you making him sound like he don't know what he's talking about. So he wants you to define it, and you couldn't even get your question out. Like you don't even know what it means yourself. So she even asked for help around the room. Said, "Hey, somebody around here help me." So it was kind of weird a little bit. It's kind of weird. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down below in the comments section. Another awesome video from Jordan Peterson, man. We're going to keep it going. But like I said, we have made it to the end of the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.